Yes. All right. Let's work. Let's work. Let's work. Let's work. Let's work. All right, how y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? It is a Friday. Got some real good energy today. Let's teach. Let's work. Let's talk about how we evaluate land. Right. For those that may not know, my name is Ray Smith, one half of the Acre Boys. The Acre Boys are active land investors. What do I mean by that? What do you mean, Ray? Active land investors. Meaning that everything that we talk about, everything that we teach, everything that we preach, we are in the game with you. This is not something that I just did or found on ChatGPT. This is not something that I Googled up and said, hey, I want to do a live today and get people excited over some things that I found. We're not fly by night. We're not the guys that has jumped in this space and looked to suck a bag out of it and then retired from it. We are the guys that have been super consistent with this message. Why are we super consistent? Because this is my livelihood. This is what I do in real life. This is what we have been doing for the past 8 years. We buy and we sell land for a living. We are considered land flippers. Using these same practices, using these same strategies, it has allowed me and my partner to fire our 9-to-5 job. You know what? I'm not going back. Only time you can position yourself to do that is when you are financially secure to do so. I don't recommend people walking off jobs because they caught a lick. Lick don't last. Systems last, not licks. All right. So that's who we are. And let's talk about how we evaluate land. That is the topic for today. How do we evaluate land? Every piece that we encounter, this is how we evaluate it. I hope this helps somebody. If it does, take it, run with it, use it when you're evaluating land because that's what it's for. We use a system that's called F.A.A.C.T.S. Oh, before we get into that, I have to say that we will be live November 22nd, live in Atlanta, Georgia, back with a land and farm experience. You may not know, or you may do know that we do run a program, right? Showing people how to invest in land for discounted prices. That's the Acre Boys program. The Acre Boys also run a program that's called Acre Boys Farming. So that's when we say land and farm, land experience. We're not farmers, but our business partner is a farmer in real life. So he heads our farming program where we're showing people and everyday people how they can begin as a farmer with no experience, regardless if you live in a city or if you live in a rural community. We're showing you how you could begin farming, and we're covering the whole gamut of that space. He has the experience. Our principal farmer lives on 31 acres. Our principal farmer is the head of an all-black agriculture school in Fulton County. He has a ton of experience to teach that. So when we join the two, land and farms together, it's a powerful asset class. And that's what we've been preaching to get people to come back to those classes. Why, Ray? Why do you want them to come back to those classes? Because if you pull numbers, right, and check the data and check the facts, This culture was thriving when they were prevalent in those two spaces, land ownership and farming, right? And we know the benefits that both can bring, right? It's a ton of benefits, especially when we start talking about farming, health benefits. You're taking back control of what you're eating. You're taking back control of all the chemicals that's being placed in your food, and you're learning how to go and grow some things that, if you do have ailments, you can self-heal yourself. Start growing your own roots and your own herbs and things like that. So we're teaching you all of that. If you want to take it a step further, he can show you how to even deal with animals and things like that. We can show you how to farm for profit. What's farm for profit? Last week he sold 8 horses, flipping horses, right? Let's make this stuff, like, it may sound crazy to you, but these are real things that is going on that everyday people can tap right into. These are practical things. We're flipping horses. All business is the same thing. All you got to do is know where to get it from for the low, and then sell it for what retail is. And we just applied that to the animal world. We can get you any animal that you want. Horses, rabbits, chickens, whatever you want. So that's called farming for profit. And that is what we got to get back to. Urban farming is a real thing. What's urban farming? That's when you don't have a lot of acreage and you're setting up shop right in your urban area. You can farm or grow crops right from your windowsill. You can grow this right if you have a back porch. You can grow right on your back porch. It doesn't take a whole lot of space. All you need is 435 feet to be considered a farm. What's 435 feet? That's a tenth of an acre. For those who may not know what a tenth of an acre is. So an acre is the size of a football field. So just take from the end zone to the 10-yard line. That's a tenth of an acre. You don't need a whole lot of space to be considered a farmer. Why the word farming? And now I'm somewhere else. My topics, it was supposed to be something else, but we'll get there. Why the word farming, Ray? Because we can't use another word. And I know there's a lot of things that come with that word. There's a lot of misconceptions that come with the word farming, right? There's a lot of history that comes with the name farming. I'm not a farmer, but you may want to be a farmer if you knew all that comes, the benefits that come with that term farming. Some people, well, I'm a gardener. I'm a boutique gardener. Well, you could be a boutique gardener, but they don't give boutique gardeners the same benefits as they give farmers. Farmers, tax discounts, tax benefits, tax breaks. Farmers, you can write off your whole salary under the word farming. Owning a farm, they give certain benefits that you can go and you can buy things, and sometimes they'll even give you land from the USDA standpoint. So you have to understand what comes with that terminology. And once we know, we'll know how to play the game. So those are the two programs that we are actively involved in and constantly pushing, and we'll be live in Atlanta, Georgia on November 22nd, and we'll be breaking down everything that both of those spaces offer and how you can get involved. Both of those spaces that we speak about, you don't need any experience. You just have to have a desire to want to learn it and be active in it. A lot of people say they want to do it. A lot of people on the fence. A lot of people watching time go by. We're not getting any younger people. Time is going by. 2025 has came and gone. We're headed into 2026. Did you make any changes this year? Only you can answer that question. Are you still on the sideline watching? Are you ready to participate? Ray, people ain't got no money. Well, you won't have no money in 2026 either. For all of those that saying, oh, times are rough right now, do you think they're going to get any better in 2026? Who's going to save you? So let's not use money as an excuse. Start saving. Start saving. That's what you should do, because I'm sure you didn't walk off your jobs. Start saving a little better. Cut back some expenses. Start saving so you can participate in whatever it is that you want to be a part of. You want to be a part of our community? Yes, there is a charge. What only thing that's free about what we teach is what we're giving now. And I enjoy doing this, but if you want to do it on a high level, you have to get in the trenches with us. That's all we're saying. So let's talk about what we can do for free, what you can learn for free. Let's give it away for free. what we can do today, and we'll talk about. Let me drop the link to this land and farm live experience first. The link to the land and farm live experience, it's only $47. $47 to attend, right? Here's the link on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to attend, you have to use the discount code ticket47. Ticket47. That's the discount code. It'll say $97 once you get there. But we have early bird special that's knocking it halfway down. So for $47, you'll come and hear about both of these industries, land and farm. And we're going to visit and walk a 16-acre property after we teach earlier in the day. Soon as the teaching is over, we'll go to the 16-acre property and we'll walk it. You'll get a feel of what a 16-acre looks like, what it feels like, and how we evaluate a 16-acre property. It'll be a good one because it's a real property that we're in negotiations of taking possession of. All right, so ticket 47 is how you get the discount. All right. The link on Instagram is in our bio. I'll put the comment in here if anybody that's interested in taking advantage of that. Ticket 47 is the discount code. Ticket 47 is the discount code for a live in-person event on the 22nd, Atlanta, Georgia. Link is in the bio. All right, that's up there. All right, let's do some teaching about, let's do some teaching. All right, how do we evaluate land? This is very, very important. Natalie, I put the link. It should be it there. The link is in the comments. If I didn't, I'll drop it again. And let me see if I can personally tag you on there. I don't know if it'll let me tag you, but I just dropped the link again. It'll be good. If you're available, come show up. It'll be a good time. You'll learn a lot. You'll see some things. If you haven't walked 16, we won't walk the whole 16 acres, that's for sure. But we will view a good portion of it. But we're definitely not going to walk the whole 16 acres. All right. Every piece of property that we come across, we have to evaluate it, especially when for either whether you're investing in it or you're looking to keep it for personal use. You need to know what it is that you're buying. First step, first phase of due diligence is this is a virtual based business. And most of the time, even when you're looking to acquire land, unless it's in your direct vicinity where you live at, more than likely your first encounter with it will be online these days, whether you're shopping online on retail sites or however you come across where you're looking at land at, right? You're going to virtually look at it. How do we virtually go through our due diligence in phase one? Great question. From an investment standpoint, we use the F.A.A.C.T.S system. What's the F.A.A.C.T.S system, Ray? Let's walk through the F.A.A.C.T.S. And we teach this to everybody that comes into our community. What's the F.A.A.C.T.S? First of all, I see you saying I got something for sale. If it's on the market, we won't look at it. If it's off market, then we can talk about something you got for sale. We only look at off market deals. So the F.A.A.C.T.S, the first F, floodplain. Want to make sure the property is not in a floodplain. Now, when it comes to floodplain, some people get confused with floodplain, right? Floodplain just means that really the most important part of floodplain, because flood it speaks to water, right? Flood speaks to water. A property can sit in a flood zone. There's nothing wrong with a property that sits in flood zone. Plenty properties sit in flood zones. Houses, vacant land. There's nothing wrong with if it sits in a flood zone. It just depends on what kind of flood zone that it sits in. And there's certain flood zones that they won't allow you to build in. So you need to check with the county to figure out what's acceptable as far as flood zone. But if you didn't take it that step further to contact county and just looking at it and saying, let me use my skill set of what I have, just look at what the other surrounding houses sit in, what the other surrounding land sits in. If it's in a flood zone and there's other homes that's in that flood zone, more than likely that vacant land is going to be acceptable to be a buildable lot, right? All flood zone means if houses are built in it, it just means that this piece of vacant land, once a builder comes to build on it, they will be required to have flood insurance. That's it. Right? So don't get so alarmed when you see flood zone. You need to know the difference between flood zone and this key one right here, wetlands. Now that's a whole different story. Flood zone, wetlands, major difference. You don't want to buy land that sits in wetlands. Right? You don't want to buy land that sits in wetlands. Why, Ray? Because you can't build on it. And is wetlands valuable? Great question, right? Can wetlands be valuable? The answer is yes. It just depends on your end use for the property. Well, who would buy wetlands, right? People that have use for wetlands. So when it pertains to wetlands, right, it doesn't necessarily mean that the property is wet all year round or at all times that is wet. That doesn't mean that, right? It just means that if you identify an area on a property and is wet, that area will not be susceptible to putting a house on it. It will not be receptive for a septic system and sewage lines and things of that nature. That's why we stay away from wetlands if the end goal is for that property or that land to be a buildable lot. When is it good to have? It's never really good, but when is it acceptable to have wetlands? It's acceptable when we're dealing with, let's say you're dealing with a 20-acre property and there's a portion, let's say 5 of the acres are wet. Clearly, you got 15 other acres, you can build on the dry 15 acres. What happens with the 5 acres that comes up as wetland? Is that not good land? It is. You can still go out and play on it. You can still park your cars on it if it's dry. It's not going to be wet all year long. It just means that you can't build a permanent structure in that area. But if the sun is shining, it will dry out and you'll be able to walk on it. You'll be able to park your cars on it and things like that. But from an investment standpoint, you have to have an eye to know what the end use of the property is. So if the end use of the property is to, for most of you, what you think is to build on it, then know where the wetlands sit. All right. If it's a small lot and it has wetlands on it, you probably want to pass on it. If it's a small lot, if it's a bigger lot, 10 acre, 20 acre, just identify what area that the wetlands sit in so you can make decisions. Make sense? Is this making sense what I'm saying about this wetlands and things like that? So once you identify where the wetlands sit at, only time that we've really bought wetlands and turned to profit. We haven't done that a lot. I'm being totally honest. We haven't done it a lot. It's not something that I jump to and say, I'm interested in that property. But if you identify that the area that you're investing in is and what's happening is area that's desirable for wetlands, only time if that's from a hunting standpoint, right? Hunters, especially duck hunting. There's areas in the country to where that's a big thing. Probably not in our culture, but in other people's culture. And we don't care who we sell it to, right? I don't care who buys it. I don't care. But that's going to be your end use of it when you're when you figure out that this area is an area that they're doing a lot of duck hunting in, and if you run across a property that's wetlands and you can get it for cheap or not, who knows? But that's the only time that it'll be probably valuable. Now, what does that do though? When it's bogged down to this certain group or this certain niche of buyer, it shortens your buyer pool. That's why I don't jump to entertain those properties, because I don't want to have a shortened buyer pool. I want to have. That's why our best selling product for us is property that's zoned agriculture, that they can do whatever they want to do with it, whether that's hunt, whether that's build, whether that's used for recreational use. We have a broader buyer pool than if it's a concentrated type of property. I have our buyer pool is shortened now. Now, only person that would be interested in wetlands is a person that's into duck hunting. Make sense? So that's the F. Flood zone, wetlands. That comes up under the F. Check that first. Check the F first. Next is the A in the word facts. The word facts has two A's in it. The first A stands for access. Does your property have legal access to it? Especially for new people. I've seen this happen too many times, that we run into new people. They're not that experienced with dealing with buying land, and they buy something that they thought had access, right? And it may have access, but there's different kinds of access. From an investment standpoint, you have physical access, then you have legal access. You prefer both legal and physical access, because a property can have a road. Let's just say, let me paint this picture for you. You can have a property. In front of that property is a house. In back of that property, there's 3 acres, right? There's a driveway that runs past the first house straight into the 3 acres in the back. That driveway could belong to the first owner and not the owner in back. That's physical access. And you just see that it's a driveway, I can get to my property. That is true. That is physical access. But when we're buying and selling properties, we need legal access. Legal access meaning that I have the rights to use that driveway to get to the property. You need to have legal and physical access. That's why we tell new people, just look for properties that have road frontage. What's road frontage? Road frontage is simple. It's what you, in your neighborhood, your house has a road that's in front of it. That's road frontage. There's a road that runs directly in front of it. You can park in front of your house. That's road frontage. That's the simplest way to pass the access test for new people. So I put a post out the other day, and it said a couple bought a landlocked piece of property and turned it into 16 acres. Landlocked meaning that it didn't have physical access. There was no physical access to get to the property. So how did they turn it into 16 acres and put tiny homes on it and now selling it for Airbnbs? The post went viral. How did they do that if it was landlocked? Well, to unlock a landlocked piece of property, you have to get is what's called an easement. What's an easement, right? An easement is something that will give you legal access to cut through someone else's property to get to your property. Technically, by law, in every state, just about every state, no property can be legally landlocked. Technically. For new people, I don't recommend that you try to fight or go against getting an easement on your own. How do we get an easement? How do you get an easement to a landlocked property? Well, you have to go to the county, and there's a court proceeding that needs to take place. The simplest way to get an easement is to go to the property or the owner of the property that has your property landlocked and ask for one. That's the simplest way to do it. But what happens if you can't get in touch with that person? Or what happens if that person doesn't agree to give you an easement to cut through their property? Then it becomes a court proceeding. All right. That might be a little advanced. See, certain things I don't talk about, especially like on a live. Like, I don't want to lose people with certain things. I don't know what your knowledge base is. This might make perfect sense to somebody that knows exactly what I'm talking about. And for somebody that's hearing this for the first time, you may think that, oh my God, this is super complicated. So certain things I just stay away from. But we'll go down that rabbit hole today. And I don't suggest that new people deal with going out trying to figure out easements. But landlocked properties, there's a whole play for it. You can get it for really, really dirt cheap. Why? Because it's landlocked, and the person that's selling it to you, they didn't want to go through the headache of trying to get an easement. So that couple that turned that property they had into 16 acres in the Airbnbs, they had a landlocked property. So they got it for really low. They bought, I don't know what the starting acreage was, but they got the property for like $5,000 because it was landlocked. They got it for like $5,000. They got the easement, and then they start building out the property. So access, 2 points. You need legal access. You need physical access. You need both. I prefer you to have both, legal and physical. Now, if I'm selling it, I have sold it without having physical access, but legal access, right? I'm more concerned about legal access, because if you selling anything and they don't have the rights to go on to the property that you sold them, that's not a good deal. And more than likely, it won't be, nobody won't buy it from you. The second A in the facts is adjacent. What's adjacent, Ray? Adjacent means, especially from a virtual standpoint, right? What's next to the property? What's across the street? What's to the left? What's to the right? What's to the south? What is in the area? What is next to your property? It's a tall sign or a giveaway. Like if you buy a piece of land, it's just an isolated piece of land and there's nothing around it. It may or may not be a good piece of property. For new people, I suggest that you buy things are next to it already. What does that indicate? That indicates that that vacant piece of property will probably be used for what's already pre-existing. If homes are in the area, that vacant lot that you're seeing, it probably means that a home could be placed on your property. If you buy in an area, I see some of my students bring me properties and they say, well, here's a lot, it's vacant. And then I look to the left, I look to the right of it, there's nothing there. There's a reason why. If there's houses across the street and there's on this side of the road, there's no houses. There's a reason why a house hasn't been built. There wasn't just waiting for you to come and find it as an investor and say, here, we want to give you a sweet deal. No, it doesn't work like that. Especially when we're dealing with residential properties, they're easy to scope out. If it's vacant and no one has done anything on that side of the street, there is a reason why. All right. So check what's adjacent to it. Is there a house to the left? Is there a house to the right? If your lot is in the middle of it, 10 times out of 10, your land probably will be susceptible to putting a house on it the same way the houses around the areas around it have on there. Make sense? Some of it is just common sense, and sometimes people just forget to think of it that way. She says, is it expensive to make a lake out of 5 acres and land out of 25? Yes, it's expensive to build a lake. It is expensive to build a lake. A nice one. I wouldn't lie to you about that. Can it be done? Yes. We have guys that do it, but yeah, it costs you to build a lake for sure. A, that's our A. So we covered the F, flood, wetlands, right? The A is access. We covered that. We covered adjacent. Then the C, from an investment standpoint, the C is probably the most important. The C is comps. Comp stands for comparables. What is comparables? Comparables is what has sold in the area, what's for sale in the area. We need comps so we can make decisions. Don't go and go off emotions. We don't buy or do business off emotions. We do business off of data. comps, comparables. That let us know if it's a good buy that we're getting it at. It let us know what a predictable or guesstimated sell price would be based upon comps. What's a more accurate comp? More accurate comp will be a sold comp, not what's for sale. You can list anything at any price that you desire to, and you can be inaccurate. And nobody can say anything about it. It's your property. You see for sale by owner 1,000 times, and they got it way over the asking price of what the market is going for. You want to check sold comps, what has sold, and you want to check what has sold within, when it comes to land, try and narrow it down to within the last year, the last 12 months, right? Sometimes, depending on the area, you can go the last 24 months, right? Sold comps is going to be what you're looking for. That's an indication of what you'll be able to sell yours for. Now, when it comes to comps, some people, they go too far from the said property. What do you mean by that, Ray? So if your property sits on Main Street, and if you go too far over, 3 miles over to another zip code, that comp may start to be inaccurate. So we try to get closest to the said property as possible to get the most accurate comp that we can possibly get. That makes sense? I hope it does, because this is all us doing this on our own. We're teaching you how to have the same knowledge base as the experts in that area. As an investor, it's your money. You should have that knowledge base, not go and depend on a realtor. So a lot of times, and I love my realtors, but a lot of time I know about more about their areas than they know about it. So this is valuable information on how to look at data, knowing how to go about and find these things on your own. This is your business. Sometimes you have to be able to, verify even what a realtor's telling you. Are there bad realtors? Absolutely, there's bad realtors. What if you run into a new realtor who may come off as they know what they're talking about and know nothing? I've dealt with them. So you need to know these things on your own. So comps are a vital piece is checking the comps. That'll let you know if you have a good deal or not based upon the money. If the area is selling for $5,000, that'll let you know what kind of offer you want to put out, right? I like to get mine at a certain price. If a 5 acre is going for $20,000, right? On the market, $20,000. How much do I need to get it at? How much money do you want to make? This is when you start positioning how much money or what you're willing to accept on your deals. Are you a greedy person? What's fine for you? What moves the needle for you? This is individual investing. So if the market is going for $20,000, I at least like to double my money. At least double my money. So if we're talking about is selling for $20,000, and I know I want to double my money, that means that I need to make an offer for at least $10,000 to double, or an offer needs to be accepted for at least $10,000. And once you start doing the business, that's too high. Why is that too high? If I'm paying 10 and the market is selling for 20, because there's transaction fees that come along with that. Right? You have to close on the property when you buy it. That'll cost you $1,000. Once you sell the property, you have to leave room for a buyer to discount it and ask for a play on the price. Everybody likes deals. So if the market is going for 20 and you listed at 20, the likelihood of it is selling at 20, they're going to maybe offer you 18. You have to leave wiggle room. So knowing that, you reverse engineer it, you go in at a price that's leaving room to negotiate. Meaning that if I knew I needed to get it at 10 being the max, I would make an offer of 5,000, an offer of 6,000. And if they say no to it, I can bump up to 7,000. If they say no to the 7, I can go to 7,500. I can go to 8,000, and it's still somewhat of a fairly decent deal. If you have a realtor in place in that deal, the realtor has to eat off of that deal. Hope all of this is making sense. I'm giving you all the game on a silver platter for you to go out and do it on your own. All right. So that's why comps are important. That's knowing how to evaluate them. It'll help you make decisions on the front end and on the back end, knowing how to evaluate comps. Very, very, very vital. All right. F, flood zone, flood plain. A, access. Other A, adjacent. C, comps. The T in the facts. Topo, topography. What's on top of the land? Identifying that. What's on top of the land? Is it covered in timber? Is it covered in trees? Is it a structure on it? Is it a shed on it? Just evaluating what's on the top of the property will let you know what kind of property you have, and is that what's on there the value of what's on there, right? So if it's covered in timber, you may not be a timber expert, but you need to like learn a little bit. You need to know that is what a pine tree looks like or what an oak tree looks like. Those are probably going to be in this region, more than likely, those are going to be the two trees that's going to be the most valuable in over here in the States. There's other trees that's more valuable, but they don't really grow in these regions. Pine trees, oak trees are going to be leading the way. Now, when it comes to timber value, most people think that, oh my God, I have timber, I have oak trees, I have pine trees on my property. Hey, Ray, what if we sell the timber? Well, I'll be like, if you never bought land before, don't try to go sell timber coming out the gate. You never done it before. You have no experience in that lane yet. And little do you know that is if you're looking to sell a property and you cut the timber, that devalues the property. That is called overcut land. Overcut land sells less than land that has valuable timber on it. Okay? Don't cut it if you're planning to sell it. What that is like you have a 20 acre that's covered in timber. And if we're talking about selling it, what you're giving your end buyer is you're giving them like let's say you're giving them letting them decide how they want to curate their property. You don't go cut it for them. They may not want the whole property cleared. So you give them that. That's what makes it more valuable. So now they can curate what they want to curate. They may want to put a pathway to the left of it, to the right of it. You don't know that. So we think that if we cut it, it's more it's not, it's less valuable when you cut your property. Now, if you were keeping the property, let's talk about if you were keeping the property and you had equitable timber on it. Now that's different. It may be smart to cut the timber and get some of your money back, what you paid for it. So knowing what your end goal is when land investing or looking for land, that's going to be vital. Knowing what you're trying to do with the property. If you were keeping it, if I were getting it to keep, I knew I wanted to keep this in my family, it had equitable timber on it, I just may cut it and get and take the proceeds from the timber. That makes sense. That makes sense to y'all? Are y'all following what I'm saying? Because I'm saying a lot. Is any of this making sense? Talk to me. Okay, you're following. You're following. So that's T. The T is the topo. Knowing what's on top of the land will help make decisions. The last is the S. We got facts. We got F, floodplain, flood zone, wetlands. A, access. Other A, adjacent. C, comps. T, topo, topography. The last thing you check in this is the S, that's slope. Slope really applies when we're dealing with larger acreage. Like when you're dealing with infill lots, typically it won't be a whole lot of slope on it. And if it is some slope on it when it's infill lots, first, what's the infill lot? Infill lots is a lot that you'll find in city areas and in suburban areas. It'll be a bunch of other houses around it. That's the infill lot. Anything under an acre, depending on the area, is probably deemed as an infill lot. It'll be a residential lot that will probably be zoned for single family residential or something like that. Those are infill lots. Infill lots typically won't have a lot of slope on it. unless you're like in a slopey area. Like there's places in North Carolina that in Philadelphia, they just sit on hills and they go up, they go down. So you may run across that. But when we're looking at that on an infill lot, slope usually pass the test. When you're looking for that, you're just looking for what we call drop-offs. What's a drop-off? Drop-off is when the property goes like that, then there's a sudden, a steep that just drops off. You don't ever want to buy those. Those could be problems. All right. Don't buy those. When it comes to larger acreage, now you want to check slope. You want to identify, 10 acre, 20 acre. What kind of slope is on that kind of property? Because that will help you get an indication of what the end use is and when you have a problem or not selling that property. You have rolling hills. Rolling hills is not the worst, really. Even for on the larger acreage, we're looking for. So if you had a 20-acre property and it went straight, then it did this, then it went up. You have to identify where those drop offs and these crevices and these slopes and these, where they at in the property. And you have to start to envision that most properties. Think of your end buyer. You want to leave somewhere. It has to be level just in case they want to put some type of structure on it. Structure could be anything. Structure could be mobile home. Structure could be a build from ground up. Structure could be a tiny home. We usually try to identify an area on that land that they'll be able to, if desired, if they wanted to, that they'll be able to place a structure. It could be a small cabin. It could be anything, but make sure it has a place that they'll be able to do that. That's a good piece of land for us. All right. And then identify what the use of that area is doing. Is it primarily used for hunting? Is it primarily used for where, recreational uses? You have to identify that as well. And that'll help you make decisions with slope. Now, slope probably for new people, you probably won't really deal with slope too much as a new person, but once you start getting deeper into investing and start dealing with larger acreage property, 5, 10, 15, 20 acres and so on and so forth, then you want to start to really know what you're looking at when it comes to slope. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable, is it a smooth slope, things like that. But those are the facts that we use to evaluate every land piece, whether we're doing tax sale investing, whether we're doing direct to owner. That is how we look at it 10 times out of 10. And it works. We call that phase 1 of our due diligence before we move to phase 2. We're not going to get into phase 2 of what happens next, but that is phase 1 to identify if you have a valuable piece of land that is worthy of taking to phase 2. Hope it helps somebody. If it did, please apply it, use it. If you're out looking at land on your own for whatever those reasons are, it works, it will help. All right. So I said a lot. Now, if you thought the live was good, I think too, it's at the end of the year. We still get a bunch of people that's inquiring about the program and wanting to do land and things like that. We was considering of just shutting down enrollment and just preparing for 2026. But however, I was saying to myself that I don't know if I necessarily want to do that because it's always a great time to land invest. Always. And what we teach is we teach tax deed investing and we teach something called direct to owner. Even from a tax deed standpoint, in all total transparency, it's going to slow up around these months. Why is it going to slow up around these months? Because most of the auctions have already happened. There are a few counties that's still coming and having things go on in these months or having an auction. But most of the counties throughout the country have had their auction already. So what would I be doing in this season, in this month as a tax deed investor? I would be preparing for January, right? for January. Now you will be ahead of the curve. Now you'll have your dates. Now you'll know come January 6th, when this list drops, I'm all over that list. So that's why I say it's always a great time to get involved, because I will be using the next couple of weeks to study, educate myself if I didn't know the game. And then I would be saying, come top of the year, I'm ready to move. I'm ready to start investing. I sat down with the information for 4 to 5 weeks. I get it. This is investing. Investing takes time. That's the other thing that we have to get out of that mind frame. Rome wasn't built in a night, and neither will your portfolio of great investments. Neither will it happen overnight. It will take some time, the same way that it took us time to get this knowledge base and speak it so fluently. We didn't know it and speak it this fast in our first 2 years. It took time on the clock. And it'll be the same for you. I'm not here to pull your leg and tell you, oh, once you come in, you're going to come out the gate making millions, because you probably won't. Can you? Yeah, you can. But if you put it this way, what you put in will definitely be an indication of what you get out. That's it. So if any of this made sense, you could comment the word land. Comment the word land. And once you comment land, you're going to get like some entry level offers that we have to our program, really low ticket offers that you can tap into and get your feet wet. For new people, get your feet wet and start doing some entry level things, right? By commenting the word land on let me see, if we are on Facebook, comment land. If you are on YouTube, I'm going to send you a link and you can head over and check out some of these things. There's some programs, there's some templates that we have for great prices, $27 and I don't know, $48 and things like that. Really low ticket, inexpensive things. That's valuable information that you could take and use. I'm looking for it. I'll drop it in there after I get off of this call. All right, so that's it for me. I definitely wanted to go live, and I'm gonna end on this note. We are curating a new community. Inside of that new community, this will be for everyday people to congregate and have conversations about land. We get a lot of people that contact us. Y'all, first of all, drop in the comments your opinion on what I'm speaking about. Let me know if this is something that you would participate in, because we're looking to get everybody involved in this new community. It'll be like a subscription-based community. When I say subscription, less than $5, right? Less than $5 a month for us to come, have a place to, one, we'll be opening it up for those that have land for sale. You'll be able to post your land for sale. So now what I have done is I took this whole audience that asked us, do we have what we have for sale, and could we assist them in selling their properties? We're giving you a platform that we can come together. You can see properties, off market deals that's for sale, right? We get a lot of people that say, I have land that I'm looking to build on. I just need help. I can't help everybody, but once I put this space together, someone can help. I don't know everybody. So somebody may know somebody in that area. For instance, I had a guy that said, I got 1,200 acres in East Texas. Can you help? I don't know anybody in East Texas, but maybe somebody that's in the community, maybe you know somebody that's in East Texas, and you can point him to a resource. So that's the purpose of putting this together. We'll have conversations inside of that community that we normally don't have on social media. Normally on social media, we put a post out 2 times a day. It's for 1.5 minutes. Those are called hits, quick hits, right? They're designed to build excitement or spread or invoke an emotion quickly. But there's not anything that's elaborated about anything that we're speaking about. So once we put the community together, we'll dive deeper. Like today, we had a time to dive deeper into what the facts is. Now it'll be inside of the community where we can dive deeper into these topics, and that'll be something that won't be privy to social media. That'll just only be for the community. I'll be able to bring in other influencers that's doing things on the high level, overall, it'll be to inform, to motivate, and to educate with doing that community. And like I said, it'll be less than $5. It'll be a subscription-based community, and where we can congregate, talk about land, drop your questions, and things like that. So if that sounds like a good idea, I like feedback. Drop it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on that. Would you participate in something like that? Y'all talk to me. All right. I got a few people saying that sounds good and it makes sense to them. Okay. Well, it's coming because I've already asked other people. Does it make sense? All right. It's coming. Y'all be on the lookout for that. That's me on this Friday. I'm going to go do some other things. Listen, if we're not going hard, right, at whatever it is that we're doing, then what we doing? What are we talking about if we're not going hard? We work extremely hard at what we do, right? I'm getting off of this call, and then I'm going to do another call. Then after that call, I have some filming to do. So don't think that, you know, I think sometimes people think that this stuff, the engine just moves. There's a lot of input that goes on to making things move. I just want to transfer some of that energy to you, and whatever you're doing, go hard with it, keep it consistent, and don't stop. That is the winning recipe. Y'all be good. Peace, love. Enjoy your Friday. I am out on this one.